Thanks, Mickey. All right. So while anyone who just joined us, we're just having everyone put their name in the chat. And if you feel comfortable, your major or what department you're in, Mia's going to go ahead and get us started. So Mia, you take it away.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mia Teal, and I would first like to start off by welcoming you all to this virtual Alumni Speaker Series, From Pre-Major to Career. I'm currently an intern with Alumni Engagement and would like to thank you all for coming out this evening. Before we begin, I am proud to announce that the Cortland College Alumni Association takes pride in creating among our Cortland family an inclusive environment for alumni, students, faculty, and staff, and all other campus community members. Any demonstration of bias, racism, derogatory remarks, or any other actions that individually or systematically harm others have no place in our university, community, and is not tolerated. By attending or participating in these events, you acknowledge that you will act in a respectful manner. Failure to adhere to this statement will not be tolerated, and you may be asked to leave the event. Together, we can work to build an inclusive and welcoming environment for all. I would like to introduce our 4 dedicated and hardworking alum who have agreed to be here today to share their experiences in their respective fields, provide some advice for those of you with similar career goals, and give some tips that you may not receive in the classroom. Our first panelist is Angela DiGrazia, class of 2015, who is currently a marketing associate at New York Presbyterian Hospital. Our second panelist is Jayla Greene, class of 2015, who is currently an academic advisor at Cornell University. Our third panelist is Samuel Bloomquist, class of 2016, who is currently a content manager and head of social media at Bold TV. Our fourth panelist is Sara Rizzi, class of 2015, who is currently a manager of events at Make-A-Wish Hudson Valley. Before we open the floor for questions, I would like to ask each of the 4 panelists to provide us with a brief description on what they do. So we'll start off with Angela.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Angela. I work at New York Presbyterian Hospital as a marketing associate. And my day-to-day is I manage sponsorships, so sponsorships with the New York Yankees, NYCFC, the football club, and Lincoln Center here in New York City. I graduated in 2015 with a communications major, a concentration in PR and advertising, and I was also a business management minor. And prior to working at New York Presbyterian, I worked at media agencies doing digital strategy on clients such as Sprint and Nestle and Nespresso. So I'm excited to be here with you and excited to meet you all.
Thank you so much, Angela. We'll have Jayla go next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jayla Greene. I currently am an academic advisor at Cornell University. I'm in the College of Arts and Sciences. So I mostly work with all of our students come in technically undecided, and then have to declare a major by the end of their sophomore year. So I work with students first year through seniors, helping them decide what they want to major in if they're not sure. And making sure they're completing the degree requirements, also encouraging them to, get involved and make sure they're developing themselves, just not academically, right, which at Cornell can be hard. So that's what I do. I also work with our peer ambassador program in the college, and I plan orientation events, which is my favorite part. Yeah, other than that, so I was a psychology major at Cornell or at Cortland with a minor in teaching ESL. I had my work study job in the advisement and transition office, which I think really influenced my career path. I'm sure those of you who have experienced that office know it's an office of wonderful people. I spent all 4 years there as a work study student, so that really helped me decide what I wanted to do career-wise. Yeah, that's me. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great, thank you so much. Samuel, you can go next.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Sam Bloomquist. I am head of social media, marketing and distribution for Bold TV. It is a nonprofit media organization that operates mostly on Facebook, YouTube, social brands. A little bit about my job. I would say the marketing part, I'm buying ads on Google, I'm buying ads on Facebook, writing content, writing scripts for television. In studio, I run teleprompter, your TriCaster, and just sort of control the voice of the brand. And the voice of the brand is really trying to give millennials, Gen Z, younger generations more opportunity, more education for entrepreneurship and financial literacy. When I went to Cortland, I was a communication studies major who concentrated in media production. Then I had a dual major in professional writing and a concentration in cinema studies. So I kept busy. I am kind of an example about how right out of college it can be a bumpy road, but you can eventually get to where your industry is. I spent about 2 years as a waiter, another 3 years as a mover, truck driver, and then in the last year or so, I came out to New York City, found a job in my field, and have been making it work ever since. So, if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to ask.
Great, thank you so much. And lastly, we'll have Sara go.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Sara Rizzi. I am currently the manager of events at Make-A-Wish Hudson Valley. So my job is essentially to raise money through events to help make the wishes come true. I also work on the wish side where I help with the planning of the actual wishes and the day of the wish happening. So it's a lovely organization. I love what I do. I do every aspect from the marketing of the events to the logistics of the events to actually putting it on. So I see the events all the way through. At Cortland, I was a dual major in business economics, concentrating in HR management, and communications, concentrating in PR and advertising. I had a few internships at school that really got me on my way, including working at the president's office, doing special events with them. And I also worked in alumni engagement, Mia's position right now. So that kind of guided me into my first position, which was I worked in higher ed at Mercy College doing alumni engagement and special events. So little combination of both, and then kind of fell into the Make-A-Wish job. So happy to answer any questions, and thank you for having me.
Great, thank you, Sara. So now we can get on to questions. If anyone has a question they would like to ask or say it, type it in the chat. But I'll start off with our first question. So you all started off as pre-majors. How did you decide on your final major that you graduated with? And whoever would like to start can feel free.
I can go. So when I was at Cortland, I took a class called Career Exploration. I think it's Advising 200 now. Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong. But it was the best class ever. And seriously, like my mind was going in a million different directions of all the things that I wanted to do. And this specific class helped me hone in on what I think I want to do, but I'm definitely don't have those skill sets and what I really want to do, and using your skill sets to your advantage. You had to do a project in that class where you picked a major, and then you kind of went down a path of explaining the potential jobs, potential salary, all of that. So that was extremely helpful for me personally. And just speaking with the advisement team and my peers and potential professors is what I found extremely useful within the Cortland community.
I can talk next. I actually got accepted to Cortland as an English teacher or English education major, and I dropped that at orientation. I was very wishy-washy on what I wanted to be. I thought English teacher, but then I realized I didn't want to be in a classroom, but I liked English. But if I do English, what am I going to do with it? Yada, yada. And then at orientation, my OA was actually a communication studies major. And he kind of acquainted me with the major itself. I got a full course load of comm study for the first semester, ended up loving it. And then I was able to still get my English, like what I wanted to do through a professional writing degree that I paired with it. So it's really just sort of seeing the majors in front of you, thinking about what you want to do, and then seeing how you can piece together sort of something that would look good on a resume and somewhere that will get you where you're trying to go next.
Yeah, I can talk next. I honestly, advisement and I came in as a pre-major, and I got to the point where advisement and transition called me in and they said, you need to pick a major now or you're graduating with a liberal arts degree. And so I also took the career explorations class, which helped me tremendously. But I started to realize that where my strong suits were in math and communicating with others. And I realized what classes I was actually really enjoying through gen eds. And I actually ended up choosing business first as my major, thinking that it was general enough where I could really kind of do anything I wanted once I graduated. But then I found HR and I really loved that whole aspect of it. And communications kind of got added on actually through when I was working as an orientation assistant. Somebody recommended to me that I should take a few classes to make it a minor, so I did it, and then all of a sudden it became a major. So I think just exploring all the different classes that you can, especially when you're in those gen ed classes, just to see if you're interested in something, because one class might just spark it all for you. And that's exactly what happened to me when I took my first HR class. So Brian Ward is the best professor ever. I don't know if he's still there, but he definitely was one of the people that completely changed my whole path with my career. So.
So I actually wasn't a pre-major. I snuck on this panel. No. I came in as a psychology major in the beginning, but not really knowing why, right? Like I think I took like a class in my senior year of high school and liked it. It was like, I'm gonna be a psych major. I did want to be a school guidance counselor, so like that was like my first goal. So I came in as psych. I always tell the story a lot to my students actually. My first psych course I took my first semester, I failed. And it was heartbreaking and terrifying. And I think in that moment I realized, okay, of course I questioned everything, right? Like I thought I wanted to be a psych major. I can't even pass this first course in my major. Like, what am I doing? But I think a lot of it was being first gen, not having really any idea what I was doing at college, right? And so I think it forced me to say, okay, I need to ask for help. I need to make sure I'm using my resources if I want to, not just like survive this 4 years, but like thrive and have a good time and be excited about what I'm doing. So I did end up sticking with psych, and I ended up loving it. I think my minor was like very random. Yes, teaching ESL, like I think I never thought about doing that, but I took a class kind of randomly, just kind of to get credits, and it sounded interesting. And then I ended up just keeping like going with all those classes and doing a minor. I loved the faculty in that program. Like it was just really small and awesome, and it ended up being a really cool thing. So yeah, I think deciding on a major is really tough. And obviously I work with students every day now that are trying to figure that out. And I think it's reminding them that, your end goals, right? Like your career or your major doesn't have to determine your career completely, right? Like you have a lot of skills. So, your major is a great starting point, but it's more about how you develop and grow during your time at college to help you get to where you want to be. So, yeah, I enjoy having those conversations with students.
Jayla, isn't that really cool though that you get to do that now with them? Isn't that?
Yeah,
do you sit back some days and just pinch yourself and say, "That was me"?
Yeah, how did I get here? Yeah, no, it is. It's super rewarding. And I think at Cornell, it's a different challenge. They're so academically driven, and I think at Cortland you have such a good balance that I try to share my experience and tell them like it's not all about grades, right? It's about the people you meet, and the relationships you build and the stuff you get involved in. Like that's gonna really kind of predict who you're gonna be. So I don't know. It is really cool.
Thank you all so much. That was great. And I will say I did have a class with Brian Ward, and if you have a chance to take a class with him, do it. It was great. I learned so much about just life in general. So
I agree.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So we did have a question in the chat. What kinds of experiences did you have at Cortland that helped you in your future and your career? Whoever wants to start.
I can start. So when I was an orientation assistant, I feel like that was kind of the start to pushing me to figure out a little bit more as to what I wanted to do. So I never really thought of higher education as a career path or, working at a college. I never really thought of it as something that I wanted to do. And then Miranda kind of really, she really showed us that this could be a career path. And she started telling me to look into different internships on campus. And so I worked in the president's office, in the special events office, where they did all of the presidential, like the sandwich seminars, commencement was another thing. Any of the award ceremonies that the president was involved in. So that was really the first time I got involved in event planning, and I realized how much I really loved it. And then that kind of led me into my second internship at Alumni Engagement. And I got very lucky in making connections with people in alumni engagement. And I actually got my first job out of college because of a connection that I made through that internship. Katie Mckenna was her name, and she and I worked at Mercy College together for 2.5 years together. So because I did those internships, not only did I gain the experience that I needed for my first job out of college, but I also gained the connection that helped me to, network and get that first position. But, I would say if my biggest piece of advice with, getting involved and stuff is just try anything that you think you're interested in. It doesn't matter if you're embarrassed to try it or don't have the confidence to try it. I was embarrassed to do a lot of things, but I will say that I, because of the things that I try to get myself involved in, including the sorority and, other clubs on campus that maybe I was only a part of for a semester, you still make those connections with people and you talk to people, and they might spark an idea for you for an internship or something that you should be looking into doing on campus. So get involved as much as you can wherever you can.
I can hop in next. I just tried to cast the widest net possible. Like I said before, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then I joined CSTV. I joined like every intramural sport possible to meet people. I was actually one of the founding fathers of Theta Chi fraternity on campus. And I joined writing clubs. I joined like every possible thing I could, including orientation. And I think Sara put it well when we sort of realized a lot of those experiences, just getting out and meeting people and finding, oh my God, I can make a career out of this. I'm having a really good time right now. That is like, you never know when that moment's going to come. Like for Sara, it was during orientation. For me, it was just writing a funny skit on CSTV. It can come from literally anywhere. So all you have to do is keep looking.
Yeah, I would just add to that too, like network with everyone you possibly can, because you're going to learn something from each person that you speak to. And that was something that I found super helpful. So my path was I had like I think 3 internships at Cortland. So 2 of them were like from the electronic media office, and then 1 was in alumni engagement. And those my bosses in those internships were actually the ones who wrote me recommendation letters when I was looking to apply for my first job. So just making connections, like developing, good resources, good people you can talk to and turn to, whether that's students, advisors. I think that's really strong and really helpful. That was what was helpful to me specifically.
I would echo everyone else. I actually working orientation, me, Sarah, and Sam all did orientation. We worked as orientation leaders together, and that summer like confirmed things for me. And then deciding I want to work with college students. So I think that experience was huge for me. Like they're all saying, internships. I did an internship in admissions at Cortland my senior year. So I think the faculty, right, just making those connections and having folks that can, speak for you and connect you with other people. Like I ended up going to grad school, so like having relationships built with faculty was really helpful. And doing recommendations, right? All of these things you don't really think about in the beginning, and then you realize, okay, yeah, this is really important. So yeah, I think all those things are critical for sure.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. The next question in the chat, did you ever doubt your choice of major, and how did you handle that?
I would say I doubted my choice of major because everyone kept telling me communications, there's no jobs in communications, or it's really low pay. So that was like what I just had in my ear. But I really enjoyed the classes, and I was just like headstrong that I was going to figure it out and make it work. And it actually ended up being an amazing thing that communications is so broad, because you can really find your niche and you can find your area that you like. So I know that I like hate PR. Like I absolutely don't, it's not for me reaching out to people and doing that. But then I can work in advertising. I worked in media, and then somehow I found my way into marketing. And it's just because it is so broad, it gives you a lot of opportunity to really work hard and to work for what you want. So I would say if you're doubting your major or your choices, maybe just think of like the long term. Also, there's transferable skills. Like I didn't have any marketing experience when I got this job, but I had a ton of transferable skills from my previous jobs. So that's why it ended up working out. So I would just say, I think Jayla said this before, just because you choose a major doesn't mean that that's going to be the end career path for you. Just think about like what the major entails and what you can learn from it, and how you could potentially apply it to other places if you're not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I was also a communications major. I was a writing major. My dad wanted me to be an electrician. Like, what are you gonna do? I came to Cortland with a goal in mind. I wanted to find out what I wanted to do. I didn't go to Cortland because I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to go outside of my small town and find it. So it just coming in as a pre-major doesn't put you at a disadvantage. It actually kind of puts you as an advantage, because you have the freedom to explore everything you want. And there is a lot to be said about somebody who comes to Cortland, is a pre-major, and then leaves Cortland very well-rounded. I would not have the position I have today if I didn't experience everything I experienced. I needed to learn how to wear as many hats as possible. I needed to become as well-rounded as possible, and it got me where I am today.
Great, thank you so much. Does anyone else want to add on, or we can always go to the next question?
I think they said it perfectly.
Yes. All right. So our next question, how did the Cortland staff or professors help you decide your major?
Okay, I guess I'll start. I I think I've said it a few times already that a lot of people had a very strong influence on me, especially my bosses in my internships that happened to be Cortland staff members. Especially in advisement and transition, everybody who helped me to pick a major and to get onto a correct path. I think it's really important to make those connections with your professors and people who you interact with, on a daily basis. A lot of the professors I had, even I got, ended up getting recommendations from them as well. So you never know what kind of connection you're going to make with people. But I think they there were such strong influences in so many different ways, whether it was just a conversation that I had with them about, how I'm doing in the class, or literally a conversation about, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Where do I go from here? I'm scared to graduate because I don't know what I want to do. So many people gave me such good advice and, just told me to take a deep breath, take it in day by day. You're going to come out the end with a career and something that you love to do. So I think there was very strong influences from all of my professors and internship bosses. And really what it comes down to is just talk to people, just ask questions, just talk as much as you can to figure out exactly where your passions lie. And if you find a connection with someone, hold on to it.
Yeah, I would agree with Sarah. I think as a psych major, even though I did have difficulties in the beginning, I think I started to take classes with more and more faculty who I just really enjoyed and were encouraging, and I felt like were accessible, and I could ask questions and not feel silly, right? And I think that helped me a lot. Also, my advisor, I think my first advisor wasn't a great fit, but I had the opportunity to change, and then the one that I ended up with was really great and gave me a lot of guidance, but also challenged me in ways that I needed to be. And I was able to be a TA for one of her courses, right? So I think building those connections and kind of learning to lean on people and learn from them. I think with faculty too, I always talk to my students about this. I think it can be really intimidating and scary sometimes to talk with faculty. But they're in these roles for a reason, right? They became faculty and instructors to work with students and to support students. So, take advantage of that. I always tell my students that, but I know it can be, obviously I was in that position, right? I knew it was scary, but I had to get over that. To be willing to talk to them and build those connections. So it's really important. And obviously, advisement and transition, like I said before, being a work study student there for 4 years, it was having those folks there to support me too and remind me you're here for a reason. Use your resources, right? And just kind of having my back and making me feel at home. I think that was a huge, huge advantage for me. So always appreciative of that.
Great, thank you. Would anyone else like to add on, or we can go to the next question? Okay, so Sam had a great answer in the chat for the next question, but Angela, I know you work in marketing. So do you have any advice for this question? What are some of the daily tasks of working in a marketing position?
Yeah, so right now, so I'm on the brand marketing team, and so our overall goal for our team is to generate awareness of the hospital. So many people, so anything that I work on, we're trying to say, New York Presbyterian is the #4 hospital in the nation, the #1 hospital in New York. And so you're going out and you're trying to reach the audience and let people know in your target market that you're there when you need them, not just, when they're sick, but also when they're well. So some of the roles and the hats that I wear in this role is that we do a lot of market research where we work with research companies to understand what consumers are looking for, and really how we need to be messaging to them and talking to them, what they care about. So a lot of it is market research and then developing the strategy based off of that. So if I know that and the strategy can come from whether you're marketing them with advertising, whether you're sending a direct mail to maybe an older consumer, or if someone is interested in the Yankees, maybe we can figure out how to send them tickets because we work on corporate sponsorships. So there's a bunch of different legs that marketing has. It could be just as simple as creating a flyer to let people know about an event. Given the crazy year that we had, a lot of my work right now is how can we give back to the healthcare workers as a thank you? So I'm working with corporate sponsorships to see, can the Yankees offer tickets? We have some of our healthcare workers singing the national anthem at a local soccer game. So there's a bunch of fun, different things. Every day is different. So happy to chat offline too if anyone's interested in learning more, but that's been my experience working in marketing so far for the past year.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So the next question I'll ask, what are some of the toughest challenges or problems you had to deal with when entering the workforce?
I can go. For me, one was time management. I was commuting into New York City and it was over an hour each way, both ways. I was working really late hours as an associate starting out. So I would get to the city by, 8:45 and sometimes leave at 10 p.m. and have to get all the way home. So for me, it was just like learning how to prioritize my work and how to speak to my superiors in a way where I knew when I walked in, like what I had to get done, what were things that could wait another day. So it was more so just being open and honest and having strong communication skills so you wouldn't sleep at the office all night, basically.
Mine was basically finding a job in general. I went right out of college to the New York City area, kind of struck out there. I tried every opportunity I could. I kept myself afloat with working at a Buffalo Wild Wings. And then I was just putting my resume out. Like I made sure I'd get 30 of them out a day. And I mean, not every opportunity is a good one. I had a guy take me in and say, "Hey, I know Beyonce's father. I'm starting a record label." Worked there for 2 days, realized he doesn't know Beyonce's father. It's just, there are a wild array of opportunities out there. I had to go back home and then I had to come back to New York. I just, kept my ears open and eventually something stuck. So
Anyone else? Okay, so the next question, when deciding on a major, if you had many in mind, how did you narrow it down?
I guess because I was so indecisive and all over the place, I really kind of looked at, what we just were talking about earlier with the transferable skills and what I knew I was good at, where I knew I was excelling in classes, and topics that I was actually genuinely interested in. I didn't want to force myself into a major where I was struggling to make it through every single class that I took. So, really, just, kind of diving a little bit deeper and figuring out what I actually enjoyed and the classes that I actually liked. And that really helped me narrow it down to get to where I was. So, yeah, I guess just, and making pros and cons lists. And even when we were in the career exploration class, coming up and seeing all of the different careers that you could get out of this major or the possibilities that it could potentially lead to, I think was very helpful for me. So just really trying to figure out where your skills lie and what you actually enjoy doing.
I agree completely. The career exploration class for me was everything. It literally changed my life. And I think being able to listen to even careers that I was semi-interested in, and then once I heard it laid out and people did extensive research on this specific career for me, it really helped me narrow it down, and it gave me a starting point at least to say I need to, half of those majors that I was thinking of are no longer on my consideration set. And it helped me be more focused and targeted, where then I can go and speak to the right people to make some informed decisions based on what I learned from that class and from those presentations. So if you have the opportunity to take that class, I highly recommend it.
Meredith is loving this plug.
Anyone else? We can go to the next question. Okay. What was the most impactful thing that you learned at SUNY Cortland that helped you in the position you are in today?
That's a hard question.
Yeah.
That's a hard question. It's a really good question. There's so many things.
I know. I feel like I learned everything at Cortland. I owe Cortland a lot.
I think it's like the fact that not everything's going to be straightforward. Not everything's going to be easy. And that you kind of just have to adjust with what's going on in your life. And from every major goes through some sort of, oh, I want to do this. Oh, I don't want to do this. I'm where I want to be. I'm not where I want to be. And going with that flow and, making the proper adjustments. I mean, I took every class there under the sun, and they all told me the same thing, just do what you love and find a way to make money from it.
I also think hard work. It taught me work ethic. It taught me how to, if you want something, you pour your heart and soul into it and you make it work. And I think it was the professors that I had such extensive work experience, and they had such real life experience where it wasn't just about, the subject matter, but it was all about, how do things make you feel and why do you feel that way? And I just think I owe a lot to my professors for, instilling drive and hard work in me.
And I was also going to just say, I think Cortland just gave me confidence. It gave me the confidence to know that I can actually, go into the real world and represent myself and in a very, positive way. A lot of the times, people, you can be very shy, you can be, not forward about anything. But I think it's really important just to have confidence in yourself and confidence in what you do and what you know. And I think Cortland really taught me that in many different ways because it pushed me outside of my comfort zone so many times. And, in the moment, it might seem super stressful and, what am I doing? How am I doing this? But once you make it through that and you make it through those experiences and you come out the other side with the confidence to show that you did complete your degree, you did go get a job, it's a good feeling. And I think Cortland definitely gave me a lot of confidence to do that and to be in the real world. So that's definitely a huge thing I took away from Cortland.
Sarah read my mind. Literally. Yeah, I think Cortland, the most important thing it gave me was learning about myself, and what I was capable of. I think I didn't know that at all until I got to Cortland, and had the experiences I had and met the people that I did. Yeah, it gave me that confidence to kind of realize, like, yeah, I can do this, right? And also, what do I want out of life, right? Like, what's next? And it gave me the confidence to then go on and get a master's degree, which never in a million years would I have thought I would do that. And so, again, I constantly preach in my job now to my students. Like, it's not just about getting A's, right? Like, it's about the experiences you have and getting out of your comfort zone and learning about yourself and what you want. Like, this is just so important. And doing things that make you happy, right? Like, life is so short. Like, do things that are going to bring you joy. And that's like the biggest thing. And I think Cortland taught me that. So yeah, lots of great memories and lots of skills gained, like everything. Cortland, super grateful for my experience at Cortland.
Thank you all so much. Those were great answers. Another question that just came in. Do you see yourself doing this job for the rest of your life, and how will you move forward?
Nope.
I'm going to say no too.
I'm also going to say no.
But I have built my resume further. I got my foot in the door somewhere. And, I'm 27 right now, just to put it in perspective. And I know that this isn't my destination, and I probably won't be at my destination for 10 more years, 15 more years, whoever knows how long it's going to be. But I'm learning along the way, and I'm getting more connections. I'm meeting more people who might get me to where I am going. But like I said, keep your head on a swivel, keep your ears open, and you'll find it.
Yeah, I would, I would say, I think the pandemic put it into a realization for me that, events and fundraising is not something that I see myself doing for the rest of my life. Do I love it right now? Am I happy where I'm at right now? Absolutely. But in looking at a future career for myself, I understand that this career in particular does have a lot of burnout, and it often happens very quickly, especially with fundraising. So, and fundraising during a pandemic, as you can imagine, has been very difficult. So I have taken this time to actually really reflect on that. And don't tell anybody, but I'm actually currently applying for jobs, and I'm doing a complete career change. I'm actually looking to go into the HR field. So I'm taking all of these skills that I've learned from my past two positions, and I'm trying to start a new career path. There's a lot of ways that it's very similar to what I'm currently doing, but it will be a big change for me. So that's the short of it.
And for me, I think that I just actually started grad school. I'm getting my master's of business administration at Baruch in the city. And this all happened from the pandemic. I also worked on sponsorships and events for the hospital, and all of that was canned for the moment. So I knew I had all of this time, like this after work time, that I could, start to build and learn something new. And I was a business minor at Cortland, so I always knew that I loved business and I wanted to get into it in another way. I never thought grad school was for me. I was like, check, done, like nailed it. Now we're moving on. And it ended up being, it's a great experience so far. So I love what I'm doing now. I wouldn't change it for the world, but I think I'm only going to build on what I'm doing now and use my transferable skills to get me to what's next. And the way that I'll do that is also through my network. Which is why I said before, networking is so important, because you never know who you're going to meet, what you're going to learn from someone, and how you can help each other along the way.
I think I do, like Angela said, like I love what I'm doing right now. And I love working in higher ed. Maybe I won't always stay in advising, right? There's the nice thing about higher ed, there's a lot of areas to work in. So, jump around and find out, what else you're excited about or passionate about. But yeah, I think, we're all young, right? So it's hard to say, like, I mean, probably not. We're not going to be in these jobs forever. I think that's the exciting thing, right? Is that, we do have these skills that we can take with us wherever. So who knows? But grateful to be in this role where I'm at right now, especially in pandemic having a job in general. I think been grateful this past year. So
Great, thank you. I just want to say, as someone who also doesn't know what they want to do after college, this has definitely been a help for me as well. And thank you all for your positivity, because that's something I think about a lot is, what am I going to do and am I going to stay? So thank you all for that. So the next question I have, what do you think is the one most important quality or qualities to have when you're entering the workplace?
Be well-rounded. Be prepared to wear many hats. I got hired as a writer, and now I'm in marketing and social media. You never know when one position is going to open up. You never know where the opportunity to advance will be. So learn as much as you can.
And have that can-do attitude, and do it with as much positivity as you possibly can, because that good attitude is going to go a lot further than you think, and people notice it. Just having that smile on your face when someone asks you to do something, even if it's not in your job description, like Sam said, you always just have to know that you're doing it for a reason, and that it's just going to further you. So always have that positive attitude, and do whatever you can to learn as much as you can in the beginning, because that will also help you out a lot in the long run.
I would add to that to just be a good listener, and to take a ton of notes, because I feel like that was one thing that when I started working, I always had a notepad and was like always scribbling things down, because people might use an acronym. If you learn what that means, write it down, and then you won't have to ask again. Like, it's all these little tips that I found helpful, was just listening and asking questions. Maybe not always like the second something happens if you're in a meeting, but writing it down, saving it for later, going back to your manager. So just being a good listener, being receptive to feedback, and know that if you do get negative feedback, it's only to really help you grow. So just to be mindful of that.
Just gonna say, ask questions. And don't be afraid of making mistakes, because it's gonna happen. And you kind of just have to learn from it and move on. Don't take anything too personally. Yeah, ask for help, even in your job, right? Like, that's a big thing that I've learned.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. So this next question will be the last one. So what I have is, what did personal contacts or networking with alum play in finding your first job out of college?
I think I'm a pretty good example for this one. So I was in a sorority. I was in Alpha Sigma Alpha on campus, and an alumni who was 4 years older than me happened to work in the same department that I was applying for a job in. And I reached out to her actually on LinkedIn, and that is how there were other factors, but that is how I believe I got the interview for my foot in the door to get the first job. So I think, when you're on campus, as we've said so many times during this whole evening, try every club, every organization that you think you're interested in. You never know where you're going to find the connection. You never know who you're going to meet. And, I wish when I was a student that I took advantage a little bit more of the alumni opportunities that we had as students, because sorry, Taylor, I never attended any of the Alumni Speaker Series or anything like that. And I think it would actually be really helpful, so kudos to you guys who are on here doing this, because you never know what kind of connection you're going to make with people just from even a question answer panel like this. But I was lucky enough that my connections through the sorority did come through for me. And now actually, randomly too, it's my roommate who I currently live with. So you never know who you're going to meet or what you're going to do. But yeah, so I guess networking with that definitely helped me land my first job.
Yeah, I've landed 2 opportunities from networking that I can think of off the top of my head. Like I said, I've done a lot of things. One of my orientation coworkers when I was in OA, she got me a job with a baseball team, managing the back offices and the media attached to it. And then I had a brother of my fraternity get me an opportunity as a production assistant in New Jersey that worked on Naked and Afraid and Yukon Man, and I only worked there for 2 days, and the other one I worked there for 2 years. So every little bit counts.
Yeah, for me, it was taking my internships that I had at Cortland, and really leaning on the internship advisors that I had. So when I needed a reference or a recommendation, I was top of mind they were top of mind for me to reach out to them because we still continued our relationship. It didn't just stop once I left SUNY Cortland. So keeping up the conversation, checking in every once in a while, and because you genuinely want to. Like, I loved my internship directors and I loved my professors. So that's something that helped me get my first job, is because they wrote me a nice reference.
Yeah, same here. I think for me, going not straight into the workforce, but into grad school, just having those connections with staff on campus, but also some of my faculty being able to write recommendations to help me get into the program at Syracuse, right, and go to grad school. And then as Annette and I were talking about in the chat, my boss at Cornell actually that hired me, she's a Cortland alum, right? So having that connection with her, an interview was just like an extra thing to be like, oh my gosh, Cortland alum, right? And so like that was just a fun thing. And I think it's just the world is so small, you just never know who you're going to be talking to, or who you might run into, and or how that person might help you out later on. So I think, always take advantage of those opportunities.
And also, just to add one thing, like, don't be afraid to reach out to people on LinkedIn. It was a fear of mine for a really long time. But now if I see that I have a common connection with someone, it's often that I will reach out. And I actually made a connection with another Cortland alum who works for a different Make-A-Wish chapter. And we actually work on projects with one another now with different ideas. So never be afraid to reach out to someone on LinkedIn. Most of the time, they're going to be very receptive.
I want to build off that too. Alumni want to help you. Alumni are constantly asking us how they can help and support students. Obviously, we do events like this, but reach out to them on LinkedIn. I was going to mention that, so it was a perfect segue, Sarah. Some will not answer you, and that's okay. You just have to be okay with that. But there are some who are willing to answer you and answer your questions. As Nan wrote in the chat, make sure you're joining the Cortland student and alumni group. There are a lot of great connections to be made there. They post jobs, ask questions, all sorts of stuff. So definitely, you can always get involved with our office. I put information in the chat, but alumni, please know that alumni want to help and support you and take advantage of that. And we can definitely talk offline about how, but that was a big thing as a student. I never realized, and then I graduated and start working in alumni engagement, and I'm like, why don't the students know this? So that's my quick plug there, but that's all I got.
Yeah, that was a great point about LinkedIn. Up until my junior year of college, I didn't pay attention to it. I had an account. I just didn't really care. But now I realize, wow, this is so important. And I actually find myself going on it a couple times a day. And having a handshake account as well has really helped me. So 2 very important sites to be using, I should say. So thank you all. And so now until 8:30, we will be going out into breakout groups. So there will be a different panelist in each group, and the participants can go like jump around to each group. And yeah, we can network. But to conclude, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, our alum, our faculty, staff, our students. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. And I hope everyone has a great night and great rest of the semester.
I have to get off, but I recognize our alums, and so I do want to say thank you for taking the time. It's always fun to see you many years later with hair or not hair, and it's just it's great to see all of you. And I really do hope that when the pandemic ends, that you'll come back and visit and stop by my office to say hi. It's always a lot of fun for me, and it's just thank you for doing this, Mia, and everyone else. So take care, everybody.
Thanks, Eric. All right, so to join the breakout room, up in the participant, if you have participant up on the right, if not, you click on participant and select a room. It should have a link right next to each name to allow you to join. And this opportunity is just to ask if there's a question you wanted to ask one of the alums one-on-one. You can definitely, as Mia mentioned, bounce around, ask different questions to multiple alums, however you would like to do so. So our panelists will have you join your rooms. I'm going to hang back and make sure that everyone successfully who wants to jump into a breakout room does so. And yeah, we'll get started.
Taylor, do you want staff going in any particular rooms?
I have a list. Hold on. Nan, you can go wherever. Mickey, I think you were going with Sam. Yep, please.
Okay, great.
Thank you. I'm gonna stop recording here before I.